AI is not really a smart tool. If the completion is not smart, then maybe it's because what you put in is not smart either.
The more we want to and have to interact with AI, we're going to learn to communicate with them, just like we've learned to communicate with people. It's intelligent, it's not necessarily knowledgeable.
It's stupid that it makes a difference, but it really does.
This is not a person. It's like an AI mindset.
That's not what an AI is. Hey everyone, and welcome to this new episode of Co-Creating with AI. This is our journey understanding and exploring the fast-moving world of AI. And this episode, we're going to talk about why you need an expert prompt engineer working with AI. And with me today, as always, is Rasmus. How are you today?
I'm good. I'm a little bit annoyed at my mic. I have this professional mic, and I've gotten complaints that my sound is too bad from these ones, and it just stopped working with my Mac, and I've been trying to figure it out. But otherwise, I'm good. How are you, man?
I'm good. Fresh off the gym, I lifted heavy things with my back. You're not supposed to lift with your back, right? That's the saying. But I'm there to lift with my back some days. So today I did that, and I'm excited about today's topic, prompt engineering. I mean, that's the stuff we've been exploring full time for the past 3 years now, all the way back to, I guess, GPT-2 or GPT-3.
Yeah,
What's it called? Da Vinci? What
yeah,
was the first?
exactly.
Yeah,
3.3.5 was the main show, right? But I think they
maybe.
started at
Yeah,
2 or 3.
yeah,
But I think I
and
want to just add to the intro there, like
yeah.
not necessarily why you need an expert prompt engineer, but like why there's a or I mean that's great,
Mm,
but also like why you need someone at least or who really becomes good at prompting and the value
mm,
for everyone to become good at prompting. And I think I mean what I'm excited about today is just to dive a little bit deeper in the different techniques there are, things we're learning like on the ground, so to say.
mm.
And I think that touches upon some of the things that we talked about last episode with OpenAI's O1 model, which implements some of these things naturally.
Yeah.
Yeah, excited for that. Do you wanna kick us off because you've been doing some work, right?
Yeah, and the first thing I want to get out of my system is this thing that often happens when someone is new to AI, that they complain that I tried it and it didn't work for my stuff. I don't know why people bother, because it's AI is not really a smart tool or something like that. And really, like that, to me, what the point they are missing there is that it is like the foundation is a completion engine, that it continues, just keeps on writing from where you left off. So if the completion is not smart, then maybe it's because what you put in is not smart either. And that's sort of a mirror that many people miss. And it really helps, like, trying to figure out what is good communication and how can I be detailed in what I provide in as input, because then I'm going to get good, smart, intelligent output.
Yeah, I think that's a really relevant place to start, just like the mindset of a prompt engineer, which I think
Yeah.
will all be. I mean, I think literally the term will disappear because the more we want to and have to interact with AI throughout our
Mm.
days, we're going to learn to communicate with them, just like we've learned to communicate with people.
Yeah.
But communicating with, I'd say with AI is a little bit different. I mean, it's similar, but also has its differences. But I think on the topic of the mindset, this is something I've started like emphasizing a lot in like the AI discovery workshops we do for like our clients, where we sort of get the team up to speed on AI and like explore use cases where they can like get value from the current state of the models.
Mm.
Um, is the mindset shift from like expecting perfect, uh, which for some reason people do. Like they write something like very limited, like give me a good strategic idea for this company, and it's like how, like if you told me that, like I'm just gonna make something up.
Yeah.
I have no data,
Exactly.
I have no
Yeah.
input on what you mean with strategy or even like examples of what's worked before. I have nothing to go on.
Yeah.
And also the goal is like very vaguely um, defined.
Mm.
Like often people are like, write me a good, blog post about this topic, and they're like, that's so generic, it all sound the same. Yeah, because
Mm.
you didn't instruct how to write, you didn't give an example of what like good looks like, or the audience
Mm.
you're writing about, or like what SEO keywords you want in there, or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's the case like across, but so that's like the mindset shift I'm trying to communicate mostly nowadays. It's like you're working with AI,
Mm.
and you like you need to put in as much, like put in something really good to get something really good out. Like just like
Yeah.
you said, you need to put some smart thing there for the
Mm.
smartness to continue.
And then the other majorly occurring beginner mistake is to ask it for facts, to think that it's a new version of Google and ask it like, um, what is the capital of this country, or whatever. I mean that it can probably answer to, but if you're asking it for facts within your niche of your profession or something like that, it's not going to get everything right, because it's not the best search engine or knowledge base. That's not what an AI is. And it like so my instruction often there is to put the facts in and get the reasoning out based on the facts, like you say with the blog post, like to provide a lot of information. And of course, even like if you want a blog post to be about specific facts, then provide those.
Yeah, and I think that's like another kind of mindset shift. Like that's hard to like, it's getting better in the models, but it's hard
Hmm.
to like conceptually grasp unless you start really using AI often,
Yeah.
which is like it's intelligent, it's not necessarily knowledgeable. Knowledge is still like you still need to like you need to check your sources basically,
Mm.
just like with people, or just like people putting out content online, right? Just because someone put it on Twitter doesn't mean it's true, or
Yeah.
even like just because it's in a newspaper doesn't necessarily mean it's true. You need to check the sources, so to
Mm.
say. And
Yeah.
this is the same thing with AI, and where, we've spoken a lot about agentic models that have like access to search and access to your data, etc. But I think like, and there comes another mindset shift. It's not like, can you trust AI or you can't trust AI? Because often people go in, they hear some story or they see some example of it making something up, like hallucinating, so to say,
Mm.
and like you can't trust it. No, but you can't trust that people know everything either. You need to like ask it to do something and then provide the sources,
Mm.
just like you would probably if you put the junior researcher on something. We want to know like, where's this data point from, like
Mm.
where does this come from, and then you'd probably maybe check it until you feel comfortable with that person being a consistently reliable researcher.
Mm.
And I think that's like it's such a mindset shift, apart like one level above what we're probably going to dive into soon. Like once you have that mindset shift, like how you actually get the AI to do what you want.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that?
Yes, definitely. And so and if we move on to the things that we like, the basics of getting those results, there are the things that, of course, we've used from the start, like telling the AI to solve a problem as if it is an expert. If you're asking it to write code, ask it to write code as if it's an expert coder. And that's also like it's stupid that it makes a difference, but that it really does. And that's because it's read a lot of code, both written by amateurs and experts, and it just tapping into the part of the neural network that deals with expert written code is really valuable, and to go down that lane
And
and
but
think
I
that.
think that's also an interesting like mindset shift where like this is not a person. Like you
Yeah.
don't need to tell another person. You right now, Rasmus, be an expert in like in neuroscience.
Yeah.
That's not going to make me know any
No.
neuroscience. I'm still going to make most up and pick stuff from maybe stuff I read or heard from a friend of mine. But like this is like an amalgamation, like a super brain in one sense that
Mm.
contains so many different parts of the neural net, so many different competencies,
Yeah.
then you need to guide it to the right part of the brain.
Mm.
Um, and you need to like put, like we've talked about this a lot, like put increasing boundaries around it in order
Mm.
to get what you want most of the time. So these are like, I think, I don't even know if I want to call prompt like engineering. It's like an AI mindset almost.
Mm.
It's like an like the AI native mindset. It's like you need to learn to work with AI, and that's not like working with
Mm.
people completely. It has some similarities. Clear instruction is good for both. Clear communication is good in both cases, but like it's also different in many ways.
Thinking about this, the importance of assigning a role, I realize I've, for all the things that we tried, I actually never tried assigning it the completely wrong role and see what happens. Like, assume the role of an expert psychotherapist and implement the quicksort algorithm in Python. I don't know. That that let's close that as a parenthesis immediately. But as an example, doing things that is supposed to break it or some way, like pushing the limits, that's a big way to learn for me. Like to just try things that are not always intuitive, or try things that make complete sense, but push them a bit further than immediately apparent as a solution. I think that's a really great learning experience when something works. Like, go a bit farther and farther and farther, and see where the limit is to that technique working. Just to like, that's a great way to learn how a new model reasons and functions, and not just stay with the same old techniques that everyone uses.
Yeah, and I think that just like I'm trying to turn this into like a mindset map
Yeah,
for me,
yeah,
right? But
yeah,
I'm turning everything you say into like a mindset perspective. But
yeah,
like for me, that's like you got to get to know the model.
yeah.
Like you can't actually theoretically get to know a person. You
Mm,
need to get to know a person by hanging
mm,
out. And that's the same thing if you're going to be actually good at working together with a model. And the models are a bit different.
yeah.
You got to actually spend some time with that model,
Mm,
hanging out, so to say. And I think that's like there are these like perspectives that I
mm.
think are really, really valuable.
As an example of that, OpenAI with the new O1 model, some speculation around what they did was that they synthesized a lot of plans, like for different tasks, for thousands of different tasks. They broke them down into plans of many steps, and then fine tuned the model on those plans. So that, which means that it's really good at breaking down any task into a series of steps. And but they have a blog post up where they also talk about a side effect of that, where it is also really good at taking a source material. Like, if you have customer support and you have lots of knowledge based articles about, this is how the system works, this is how, let's say you deal with an invoicing software, and then there's going to be so many details in how to use the invoicing software. And what O1 is apparently really good at is to break down just a plain article about, with facts about the system, into workflows about how to achieve specific tasks within that system. So that, and it's meant to be used to instruct the AI itself, but it actually turns out it's also good at instructing humans what to do within a system, and how, like, what steps to proceed in order to solve a problem.
That's really interesting because I heard something that takes me off on a tangent, but I
Yeah,
heard Shamat Palihapitiya in a recent like All In podcast
yeah,
speaking about like a theory. I'm not sure this is not validated, but
yeah,
like theory about how Klarna could deprecate, so throw out Salesforce and Workday,
yeah.
which are big systems, and Klarna is a big company. And what he basically said is something along those lines, is that if you have a system where you can observe inputs and outputs all the time,
Mhm.
like agentically,
Yeah.
then you can figure out the intervening code
What's
paths or the
happening in
intervening
between?
steps.
Yeah,
Yeah. And what you're saying about O1 makes a lot of sense there.
yeah.
That, if you have a system that's really good at planning, it's also really good at figuring out, given a starting point and an end point, what was the way you got there?
Mm,
Like, what is a good way to get there?
mm.
So I think that's like something that I'm like thinking a lot about right now, but probably a topic for another
Yeah.
another day. But it's interesting to hear you say that.
So if we go back to talking about what goes into a prompt, we have the role, and you mentioned also target audience, like who, if there's writing involved, who should be the target audience for that writing. And and then we have the facts. And if I'm using ChatGPT, maybe I'm copy pasting facts from an article, or I'm asking it to search the web um, for facts and use those, and then ChatGPT will provide references. But if you're using an API, or if you're calling the LLM programmatically, then the facts might differ in different calls. So then there are lots of methods of bringing in the relevant facts, like RAG or text to SQL, to pull out data using SQL that matches a specific query. Uh, what do you have any learnings there so far from within Multiply, like any specific techniques that have proven valuable in terms of making RAG actually work for stuffing the prompt full of relevant facts?
Yeah, I mean, we have like there are a couple of things there that are often we we get into actually situations where people have tried to do stuff in ChatGPT
Yeah.
and either they can't get it to be like really good, but they feel like they should be get it be able to, or that they just feel like no, this can't be done,
Mm,
right? You can't do this.
mm,
And the actual reason for that is they're not presenting neither the instruction nor the information in a clear enough manner
mm,
to the AI,
mm,
like we discussed. So what we basically do is let's take a super simple example. Let's take a landing page that you want to generate for a specific audience, for a specific target group, and a specific brand voice of the client. Um, and you want some specific SEO keywords based on, um, I don't know, something you got out of Google Analytics or
yeah.
something.
Mm,
Uh, and just putting that in like a very clear way for the AI to understand that when it's writing this landing page, it needs to have this structure, like because you have
mm,
examples of what good landing pages look like. It needs to be in this style as the brand, needs to be about this product for this target audience. Um, that's like pretty complicated set of instructions to clearly communicate. So what we just do there, like as part of the system, is it's all clearly divided and labeled in the data. So
mm,
it's like presented to the AI model that you choose to use in a very structured way, and then the prompt can just refer to it. So it's a little bit like giving it a library of relevant information, and then telling it how to use that by like labeling it. It's a little bit like a legal agreement. You've seen like in the beginning,
yeah.
there's like definitions.
Yes.
It's like this word, these words means this. This words means this. You don't have to write out, the full
Mm,
company name. You can just write customer, or you don't have to write out, some complicated long description of what something is. You just take like one word,
mm,
and it like works a lot like that. I feel like so you need to, and this is one of the things like where I think communicating to an AI and a person is a little bit different. That everything needs to be explicit, in my opinion, with AI.
yeah.
With I mean, it's good with people as well if you have like, but often there can be a common understanding, and maybe we'll
Mm,
get there. Probably we'll get there with these agentic models. But as of right now, the model doesn't get to know you, but people do,
mm,
like in many ways, right? And therefore, there can be implicit information. Like if we're going to communicate, I don't have to spell everything out. But with AI, you have to spell everything out. Or if you really want like a very specific type of result, like the landing page example I gave,
mm,
then you need to be extremely explicit
mm,
with the model. And that's of course a big challenge to do in like a chat format, which is why we built Multiply as like in another format like with
yeah.
workflows. Does that make sense? I mean, to you
Definitely,
probably, but do you think,
yeah.
yeah?
And it's almost I find as well that when you provide more material to for the AI to synthesize from, it's as if the creativity of the LLM is also elevated. That the result is not only like containing the good facts, but it's more varied, more creative. It's like it's not just a plain internal state it's working from. It has a sort of a richer um, um, ground material, which sort of pulls out more unique aspects from the internal network of the LLM.
Yeah, and I mean it's interesting you say that you get like, did you say it gets more creative, right, with a
Yeah,
better
yeah,
instruction? Yeah.
yeah. That's my
Um,
experience.
yeah, and it's interesting actually with I just saw something the other day from an associate professor at Wharton called Ethan Mollick about that, like a study where apparently the GPT-4 is more creative than people. Like
Yeah.
I disagree with that in many ways, but it's interesting like in the sense that like if you're a person and you want to be creative, let's see
Mm,
you creative, like you're a creative director at like an agency, right? Your work job is to be creative. That's what you do all
yeah.
day. You still need to like find inspiration. You need to ask yourself relevant questions to like start figuring out the problem. You need to start mapping it out. You need to maybe bring in relevant people and ask them things. Like it's not a sitting in a dark room coming up with the genius idea. It's like an iterative, explorative process. And by giving these clear instruction and giving good data and a good process, which I think we should get
Mm,
into for the AI to work, like that, which O1 sort of packaged in there, like in a good way, right?
mm,
You can get more creativity,
yeah.
like just like with people. So that's like a place where I think it's very similar to people. I want to make a map of this, by the way. I'm going to make a map of like, AI versus people,
Yes.
something nice.
Yeah.
I know.
And so you mentioned process now, and of course the very first early thing that we started doing way back when was to ask the LLM to work step by step. Assume the role of an expert coder, work step by step to implement this function, and it elevates the it's proven to elevate the result early on for like with like 10% on evals, and you get better result. But now we have a lot more advanced things to do with chain of thought and tree of thought and so on. And in multiply you build dynamic workflows where you where not everything is built into the first prompt. You actually like progressively build up a context, solving a task, coming closer and closer to solving a task. So what are some of the learnings that has been in terms of process for LLMs?
I think one of the things, and this on like the mindset level, this goes back to like these workshops I've started having every week now, which is like I think like one of the unique things with AI is it can keep a lot of information in its head. Like they
Yeah,
said, like a person can keep like six things in it in his or her head
yeah,
at the same time, or six or seven, I don't remember, something like that. But an AI can keep like literally like 100,000 words in its
yeah.
head. I mean, with Google, like some of the models like million, right? And but it can still like, but trying to do many things at once is still extremely hard. So even if you have like a full book in memory, now saying that you're supposed to do like these five things with this material, like you're gonna rewrite it for this audience in this brand voice,
Mm,
la da 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 da, whatever, like as Shakespeare for, I don't know, like in a new language. Doing all these things at once is a lot tougher than doing them step by step, right? Doing like first translate this to Spanish, then write like this famous Spanish author, then make the book shorter, or like probably the
mm,
opposite way, right? Make it
yeah.
shorter first, right? But something like that is actually gets a lot better result because AI is still, and I think this is something quite fundamental, which we could probably get philosophical about, like you can't have multiple directions at once. Like an arrow can only go in
Mm,
one direction at once. There, like it's impossible. It can come from like but
mm,
it always goes in one direction. And I think that's like why you get to your goal is like a step by step thing.
yeah.
And I think there are a lot of different techniques for either allowing the model to do to decide, plan and do that process itself, like
Mm,
O1 does, or making the process explicit, which is what I mean, we do both, but like, which is
mm,
what like the first kind of insight behind multipliers, right? It's like explicit process, explicit context, very
yeah.
explicit instructions means you can get really good results
Mm.
for different things.
And so you can do stuff like come up with three versions of a tagline for this landing page, and then as a second step, you say select one of the taglines based on this criteria. So that means that you get visibility on the intermediary result within the process, and as you say, you make sure that the LLM is actually doing those steps internally. That is not just producing like you can sometimes, even if you ask it like write three taglines and then pick the best one and write just that one, then it will sort of glance over that step. It's not really doing that internally, but with the structured process for prompting where you can actually provide not only like asking it the LLM to do a chain of thought, you can actually have an actual like chain that is where you're prompting the LLM over and over with new instructions to build up to solving the task.
Yeah, that's actually interesting. Like, can you tell like let's go to tree of thought there because there I'm
Yeah,
not like I still want to understand it better. You probably understand it better, but just staying with chain of thought here, just like
yeah,
step by step, like if you give multiple instructions in one prompt,
yeah,
it's not actually doing this step by I mean, is it? I mean, it's still going to just generate the next token, right? I
yeah.
mean, supposedly internally, so to say, it does it. Like if you say it, do this, then this, isn't it doing both at the same time
Yeah, so it is doing
in a
both at the
normal
same
prompt?
time. Yeah, and it will. So that's why, for example, when if you read the Anthropic's prompting manuals, they have a really excellent prompting tips and like a big book of prompt engineering. They they often recommend you to give the LLM a scratch pad to say, like, you're going to solve this problem. Here's the scratch pad. Make a draft of how to solve the problem on this scratch pad surface, and then
Yeah.
below that, actually solve the problem. And then you sort of give it a whiteboard where it can do some drafts and do some thinking, and then work from that later on. And then it actually takes like one step at a time, even if it's just one prompt with a list of instructions. If you explicitly tell it to, like, use this output format, here comes the draft, then the final version, then it will actually do those steps. But if it's all like one step output, then it's going to glance over the middle steps, or it will do everything at once, as you say.
Yeah, and I think that's interesting because I think this is also getting to know the model. So, for example, if you take ChatGPT, right, and you just
Yeah.
do with the standard model now, you ask it to do a bunch of things. It's actually going to do it in one go.
Mm.
If you ask O1 or use like our agent or whatever, that can actually plan its work and take multiple steps, subdivide the work, etc. Then it can,
Mm.
actually work step by step. Or the nice normal hack, which goes back to the mindset of not expecting perfect,
Mm.
and neither from AI nor people, is you write one thing first and then you write the next thing after you allow
Yeah.
the AI to reply, which is the iterative back and forth,
Mm.
which I still think is like even with these like smarter and smarter, like more agentic models, like that's still a really good like mindset. Is like don't, which I think a lot of people have. So it's nothing new, but very important.
So
But
back
you
to
want to
you.
dive into sort of to tree of thoughts?
Yeah, back
Because
to
like
yeah,
I want to
tree
go
of
get that
thoughts.
better.
So what's the difference between chain of thoughts and tree of thoughts is that with the chain of thought, you ask the LLM to go through a set of instructions and then come up with an end result, and that can be super effective. Tree of thoughts is something that is even more sure to produce great results, but it's actually not very common in the real world because you require tooling, like a tool set that is not present in any of the services that we use, and so it's more of an academic, actually, at this present time, an academic construction, but it's been proven to be really effective. So what you do is that at every step you provide not one instruction for the next step, but several instructions, trying different things for the next step, or try the same thing but with a random variation, just like generate 5 outputs of every step, and then have a strategy for for going through, like generating from the first step. Maybe you generate 5 versions, and then you pick the best one, and then from there you can generate 5 new versions of the second step, and then you pick the best one. So you sort of build at every step, you select the best version, and you can even do this further, that you go down in every step, you go down three steps in every direction. So it's almost like the way a chess um, engine finds the best solution, that it just tries everything, and the LLM cannot try everything because the search space is so vast. But you can try at every step, you can try 5 different versions and select the best one, and you can go down, like further down many steps, and then back up when, if the results are not good in one branch, you go down another branch instead, and so on. And there's lots of different pruning strategies, as in a chess engine. It also has a search tree to find a really good solution or the best solution, but you there's you cut off the branches that are not promising and go deeper in the branches that are promising. So that's also possible to do with tree of thoughts prompting strategy.
Okay, so I want to double click there.
Yeah,
So first of all, just reflection. This is interesting because it requires the reflection after each. I mean, after like one or several
yeah.
steps, right?
Like an
So actually,
evaluation, is this a
yeah.
suitable answer?
And that's like a loop because it's interesting, like just from like we've talked about this before. I don't remember the
Mm,
model, but if I would, describe the way I think about things is like you have a goal, right? You
mm,
realize you need to do something. You realize where you are. You have some, situation, right? In business, for example, or in life, and then you evaluate alternatives, right? So you think like, okay, if and the way I always say that is like, I'm going to think about the different alternatives. And I'm going to try to make each alternative as good as possible,
mm,
and then I'm going to compare them. Like, so I actually write out the alternative, or I think through the alternatives, and
Mm.
then I reflect on which one is the best, and then I go that route. And then of course there's next steps, right? So I really that makes a lot of sense from just a basic kind of logical problem solving approach to just
Mm.
explore alternatives, reflect on the alternatives, and then take further steps on the alternatives that seem promising. So
Yeah,
there are a lot of, I can see a lot of different ways you could be like, you go five early, you cut off two, you take another step on three, then you cut off another one, like in terms of like how and when to
definitely.
prune to get to a good
Yeah,
result. But
and that's the tool that we're missing. Like that's not something that I tried ever. Like that kind of prompting tooling. So that would be a really interesting one to see if that pops up at some point.
but isn't that what supposedly O1 is doing internally, right? Because they have a
Yeah.
random factor to like explore and then decide how to move forward. Or did I misunderstand that?
Yes. So it is sort of unknown exactly what it's doing, but um, there's definitely at least chain of thought. I'm not clear that it's doing tree of thought internally, and I haven't seen any reference to that. But that there's like a diversification component to it, that can also improve over time is something that I've seen referenced.
And it's interesting because like the reflection stage is almost like um, I think the one we don't do today, like, so we have an agent, like, thinking through a goal, planning it,
Mm,
subdividing the work, going through different, you can even see it like in the product, like going through different, like, separate branches.
yeah.
But they are still branches on like one main branch, so to say. They are like things part of the plan to then
Mm,
reflect on the full result and get to it. It's not like completely exploring different branches. You might end up like here or there and comparing it. I don't know how to put this, but I think
yeah.
it's a really interesting thing. I'm definitely going to have a talk with the people in the like my colleagues about that.
Yeah, it would be super interesting to see within Multiply if that could be like an evolution of the interface there.
Yeah, a lot of
Awesome.
multiply references today, but I
It
don't
is,
mind.
yeah,
Hopefully, it doesn't feel like
but I
plugging it too
actually
much.
don't think that's a coincidence because Multiply is really one of the more advanced like prompting process tools out there. So that's I think that it's just natural that it comes up a lot when we talk about prompt engineering.
Yeah, we're just gonna have to keep it on like 'cause, on a good balance there. I mean, for
Yeah,
example, now I got so we're gonna have a new edit of hopefully you like it, a better editing service for the podcast, for the videos especially, to make them a
yeah,
bit more engaging. And like the first version I got, it was just like multiply everywhere. Didn't
really.
even say co-creating with AI, and I'm like,
Okay,
gotta fix that.
yeah,
But anyhow, but yeah, thanks a lot,
awesome.
Martin. This is really interesting.
Yeah.
Do you have any last things to add, or should we round off?
No, I think that was it. We covered most of the points, and no, I think my one of the things I want to like send to the listener is to have fun with prompting and not only do the logical thing but also do sort of the quirky humorous thing because that's a learning experience for both the LLM and for you.
Yeah, I fully agree. Thanks, Martin.
Awesome. Thank you so much.